here we have the new vanilla iPhone, the iPhone 16. Are this year's changes that significant, and is this phone worth upgrading to? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our iPhone 16 review. This is our last video from this studio. In fact, the movers have already gotten started. Good as new, right? I think we're ready to go. Apple has been introducing new features to its vanilla iPhones drop by drop. It's something that we're used to by now. Last year's iPhone 15 brought a dynamic island selfie cutout and a revamped main camera. And the new iPhone 16 packs a revamped ultra-wide cam with autofocus, an action key, and a new hardware button for the cameras. There have been a few refinements here and there as well, like the redesigned camera bump. Rather than the square with offset cameras, now there's a more elegant vertical arrangement. Otherwise, you get the same compact weight and dimensions as last year. And again, there's the flat back made of Corning glass, and an aluminum frame. And of course, there's IP68 ingress protection, and on the iPhones it's rated for submersion to a depth of 6 meters. The display also hasn't changed. Like last year's model, the iPhone 16 has a 6.1-inch OLED panel protected by ceramic shield glass, and it has just a 60 Hz refresh rate. Apple still hasn't upgraded the refresh rate on its vanilla iPhones. Because of this, swiping and scrolling on the iPhone 16 doesn't feel as smooth as on the higher-end iPhones, and basically any Android phone these days would come with a high refresh rate screen. There's no always-on display support either. The performance of this display is the same as last year. The bezels aren't as thin as on the Pro models, but there's still a sharp pixel density of 460 ppi, and support for HDR10 and Dolby Vision video. And with True Tone, colors look consistent in various lighting conditions. And there's plenty of brightness for comfortable use outdoors. We measured around 850 nits maximum with the manual slider, and this could boost to over 1700 nits in auto mode, slightly brighter than last year. The dynamic island functionality is back too. Around the selfie cutout, the UI can display relevant info and shortcuts. This pill-shaped cutout houses both the selfie camera and a 3D TOF sensor, which enables Apple's secure Face ID, which you'll use for biometrics. There's no fingerprint reader here. The iPhone 16 has a pair of stereo speakers for your audio, and they have very good loudness. The sound quality is excellent, with a balanced audio and rich output across the board. And the phone can come with 128, 256, or 512 gigs of storage on board. Of course, that's not expandable through microSD. The new iPhones come with Apple's latest iOS 18 out of the box. It's essentially the same as what we're used to with iOS, but with a few new features and personalization options. We'll be doing a deep dive into iOS 18, and we'll link that video here when it's ready. The Action Key was exclusive to last year's iPhone Pro models, but now it's made its way to the vanilla iPhone 16. It's a button you can assign to open one of a few predefined actions, or one of your own custom iOS shortcuts on a double click. Let's talk about Apple Intelligence. Like Google and Samsung, Apple is looking to provide its own AI-based features. These include writing tools, summarizations, generating your own emojis, and advanced gallery search. Siri is more advanced too. However, these features will be released later on via a software update. And speaking of updates, you'll get at least 5 years of software support with the iPhone 16. The iPhone 16 packs an Apple A18 chipset, which is 2 generations ahead of what last year's vanilla iPhone had. It's meant to be a significant improvement in both the raw performance and power efficiency. Apple claims around 30% power savings over the iPhone 15. In benchmarks, the iPhone 16 indeed earned significantly better scores, both when it comes to CPU and graphics tests. The performance here is every bit flagship grade, and games run great. The thermal management is respectable here too. The iPhone 16 sustained a high level of performance through our prolonged stress tests, with much less thermal throttling than last year's iPhone. The iPhone 16 has a 3,561 mAh battery, a bit bigger than last year. That, plus the improved efficiency of the chipset, results in much better battery life here. The iPhone 16 earned an excellent active use score of 15 hours and 42 minutes. Impressive for a compact device. The iPhone 16 doesn't come with a charger, and in our testing it supports a maximum of about 30 watts. We were able to charge the phone from 0 to 59% in half an hour, and a full charge took an hour and 42 minutes, like the iPhone 15. There's also support for fast wireless charging through MagSafe. And now the cameras. The iPhone 16 brings the same 48-megapixel main cam as last year, paired with a new 12-megapixel ultra-wide which has a brighter lens and autofocus. Another new addition is the camera control key. It's a hardware button that has actual travel when you press it, but also recognizes light presses, and even swipes across the surface. You can use the camera control to start the camera, and then when you lightly press on the key, the on-screen UI buttons disappear, and you can control the camera only with the key. Swiping on it can zoom in and out, and a double light press opens a menu for other options you can manipulate by sliding. Clicking the control key takes a photo, and press and hold it to take a video. But overall, the camera control doesn't seem to solve any real problem we have with camera phones these days. It's not particularly intuitive, it can be fiddly to use, and it can even get in the way of situations when you're not meaning to use it. Now let's get into the camera quality. The main cam captures excellent 12-megapixel photos. They're clean and sharp, with plenty of detail in the frame. Foliage and grass look very convincing. Shadows are well developed, and dynamic range is excellent. Apple still prefers a more natural approach to the colors with the iPhones, and they're not as vibrant as what you see from some other phones. At 2x digital zoom, photos come out looking solid, with plenty of detail and a matching rendition to the regular photos. There is a noticeable drop in sharpness though. In low light, shots from the main camera are very impressive. They're clean, sharp, and detailed. Noise is very minimal, and yet the photos don't look overprocessed. Contrast is nice, and the darker areas are very well developed. Highlights are generally well handled too. Overall, the new ultra-wide's photo quality is solid, and we do like the level of detail here. The rendition matches the main cams well, including the colors, contrast, and exposure. There is less sharpness, and the dynamic range is more limited than the main cams, but that's expected from an ultra-wide camera. This year's new and exciting development is the ultra-wide's ability to autofocus, so you can take macro close-ups with it. It does that job surprisingly well, with very clean and detailed close-up shots. In low light, the ultra-wide's photos are okay, but not spectacular. There is plenty of detail, and the contrast is solid. However, these photos can look a bit grainy at times. We've seen better nighttime performance from ultra-wides on competing phones. The iPhone 16 borrows its selfie camera from the iPhone 15, and it does a good job. The level of detail is excellent, and the exposure is on point. And the autofocus helps the subject come out sharp and clear. The iPhone 16 can record 4K videos across all of its cameras. The main camera's 4K footage is excellent, with great detail and sharpness, good contrast, and wide dynamic range. The colors are quite accurate too. All in all, the iPhone 16 lives up to Apple's reputation for great video capture. 4K videos from the ultra-wide camera are very likable. Detail is great, and everything looks nice and sharp. The dynamic range is surprisingly wide too. Colors are actually a bit more lively than on the main camera. Video stabilization is always on, and it works great across all cameras. We have no complaints. And in low light, the main camera produces clean and sharp videos, with a wide dynamic range and plenty of detail, even in the shadows. So that's the iPhone 16. Compared to last year, there's a better chipset, and you can shoot macro close-ups now. It's useful to have the action button on board, and the battery life is longer this time around. The overall user experience of the iPhone 16 is very similar to the previous model, and unfortunately that includes the 60Hz refresh rate of the display. But this phone is definitely more refined, and if you're looking for a compact flagship, it's worth considering. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for alternatives, you can check out our reviews of the iPhone 15 and the Samsung Galaxy S24. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.